Yo, 2007 Nissan Pathfinder. What could be more exciting than another check brakes grinding video? I don't know what gave it up more on which corner it was, the grinding or the spackled rust on the side of this car. Yeah, we could have a problem there. I have quite a bit of uneven brake pad wear because the inboard pad on this side is worn down to nothing. The outboard pad is about half wore and the other side's about half wore. And I can put a vice grip on here and try to squeeze this caliper down. Oh, that was amazing. Obviously, it doesn't want to squeeze in because I got some issues here with this. Yeah, it don't want to move. This top slide is moving just a little bit, and this bottom slide's completely stuck. I also got these funny brake hoses here that, I don't know, they're kind of wet, which is kind of weird. Both of the front ones look like this. I didn't really see a leak, but it looks wet. So I went in the car and I just hammered down on the brakes really hard for about a minute and held it there to see if I'd get a leak. And I moved this hose around and I can see there's a little bulge right here. See that bubble right there? I didn't notice anything until I did that, so I'm going to poke a hole in this. And, I figured there'd be brake fluid in here. I don't see anything, but something ain't right with this. I'm not okay with this. So I'm probably going to end up doing some brake hoses. And then I go over to the driver's rear and I can tell the brake pads are uneven wear. They're thicker on the bottom than the top. And it's under 2 millimeters. I got a depth checker here. So that's due. And this side's got a lot of pad on it too. If I try to put a vice grip on this, pull this one in, I got the same thing going on here. This top pin slides and this bottom one's rusted stuck. All 4 of them are like that. Take the brake fluid reservoir cap off and this little screeny filter thing. And that brake fluid looks like hell. There's the front driver's side brake line. Same thing. It's all wet and juicy looking. I don't know, it's a little cracky. It's a little cracky. I don't like it. First thing I'm going to try to do with this job is get out as much of this brake fluid as I can. Got a little rubber cap on this bleeder. 10 millimeter. Going to try to open this up without breaking this bleeder screw. And that's all rusted, stripped. I got to get a 6-point socket. Try that again. And I'm lucky. It didn't break. I didn't have to torch it. Getting a little fluid coming out of there. So I'm going to take a rubber hose and just put it on here so it can drip down into this pan without making a huge mess. The thing's dripping away pretty fast. Now I'm going to try to pull in these caliper pistons, make sure they're okay. I can just get behind the pad, in between the pad and the rotor. Get the bottom one. This is a dual piston caliper. So there's a piston on the top and a piston on the bottom. And when you pull on one, when you pull one in, the other one wants to pop out. So you got to kind of push them both in at the same time if you can. It's a little sticky. I'm going to kind of pull this pad out of the way. You got rubber dust boots here too. You got to be careful not to tear those and do anything dumb. So So I'm just going to pull on the pistons themselves. They don't want to go in very well. Ooh, those are going in really hard. That ain't no good. That it pulled in a little too hard. Actually, a lot too hard. They should pull in really nice and smooth, and those, yeah, they're not good. That amazing looking brake fluid is a probable cause. If you don't keep that fluid clean, them pistons can get all screwed up. Now I'm off to the driver's side. I'm going to try to pull this side in and see if it goes in any easier. Yeah, it does. Yeah, these pistons pulled in really nice. So I'm going to call this caliper good. A lot of people tell you you do one side, you do both, but I'm not into that. If this one's nice and free and it works nice and the other one's not, I'm only doing one. So of course I'm going to close this brake line off. Now I'm off to the rear, same thing. Dribbling nasty brown fluid. Try to pull this one in. Yeah, this one pulls in super nice too. Very easy. That one feels really good. I'll just do the same to the other side. Now that I have all 4 caliper pistons pulled in, I'm going to take this cap off. This filter thing. I got a vacuum brake bleeder here. I got from Harbor Freight. I'm going to suck as much of this fluid out as I can. There's still some left in the back reservoir I'm not going to be able to get out. I have a 32-ounce bottle of brake fluid. I'm going to stick upside down in this reservoir. Hopefully it'll stay in there without falling out. You don't want to get any of this brake fluid on your paint because it will dissolve your paint. It's kind of corrosive. That looks safe enough. It won't leak out. That way my reservoir will always be full when I go bleed this brake system. Now I opened up both of these rear brake bleeders. I put hoses on both of them. I'm just going to let them drip out until the fluid gets clear. And while I'm bleeding out the rears like this, I'm going to do the front brakes. This caliper's got two 14 millimeters on it. There's a 17 here if you need to hold on to this slide pin. I can take this and just flop it out of the way for now. You don't want to hang it on the brake hose. I don't have to care because I'm going to replace the things. Got some little wiry things here that spread the pads open. I'm just going to get these brake pads out of here. 19 millimeter on the caliper support brackets. I'm just using a swivel socket. Ugh. Somebody put anti-seize all over everything. I hate this stuff. It gets all over everything. Ugh. Yuck. Gross. Looks like this rotor's just gonna fall right off. A lot of times you gotta whack it with a hammer or something. Now this is the driver's side caliper support bracket. The passenger side should have one that comes with it, so I'm not even going to mess with it because it'll be new. I got some abutment clips here I can take off. This pin is really nice. It's all rusted. And that ain't good. This one's stuck. I can tell the brake pads are actually wore fairly evenly, so there really isn't that much of a problem with this side. That just tells me that the caliper pistons are doing the job, and this slide probably moves. It does move a little bit. I'm just going to try to wiggle it back and forth and pull out on it at the same time. Get a little vice grip action on here. I'm going to salvage all of this stuff. I'm going to go through my drill bits, try to find a close enough size. Looks like a 27/64 is just a hair smaller. I don't want to take out any metal anyways. I'm just going to clean as much of this rusty junk out as I can. Put some brake cleaner in this hole. Hit it with a nylon brush. Kind of get a little more of that junk out of there. Now the sealing surface too, that's all rusty, so I'm going to wire wheel that clean. And if I was actually going to save these pins, I'd wire wheel all of this too, nice and clean. So these boots will be able to seal again. And that's good enough stuff. Now that I have that clean, I'm just going to hit this with a file. Make sure there's no high spots of rust on any of this. Got some abutment clips here I can put on. I wire wheeled these pins really nice, and I commandeered a little rubber boot that I had laying around so I don't have to go to the parts store and buy those. I got some Sil Glide here, silicone paste, works just as good. Gonna lube these up really nice. This junk they put in the brake pads, you don't want to put this on the slides. Just trying to get all the rust and junk out of these boots. They're pretty filthy. It's a good idea to have a little bit of lubricant on these boots too, because it'll help them seal. So I just want to put a little bit on the sealing surfaces. Don't need much. Yeah, those are like brand new now. I got some nice ceramic brake pads here. For whatever reason, there's just one wear indicator on one pad, and this goes on the passenger side. So I'm going to want to put these on the bench here just to make sure they slide really nice and they're not sticky. And if they're sticky at all, then you're going to have to take these abutment clips off, and there's probably going to be more rust behind the abutment clips. You don't need any lubricant on these abutment clips either. All the factory cars require no lubricant on these abutment clips. Looks like the brake fluid's nice and clear now. So I'm just going to close this off. I'm going to close off the other side too. Now I'm going to do a little prep work on this. Actually looks really nice. Just clean off all the flakes and rust off of this hub. If there's any big nasty chunks on here, it can actually make your rotor feel warped and you get a little pulsation out of it. It actually cleaned up pretty nice. And I got to do the same thing with the contact surfaces on the caliper. Make sure there's no high spots on it, because if there is, your pedal feel's not going to be really nice, And it can also make a little bit of squeaking noise because your brake pad can just barely touch off on your rotor. Make sure it's nice and flat. Do the same thing with the pistons. They actually look really nice. You can actually hit them with a file if you want. That black junk that's in your box of brake pads goes on the contact surfaces here. Put a little on the piston cups. Got Mr. Brake Rotor here. Looks fairly clean. There's a little bit of oil on it. Usually there's oil or Cosmoline or something on it. Just gonna hit it with some brake cleaner. Wipe it off with a rag. Make sure none of the lint from the rag is on the rotor, because if any lint's on here or any junk, it can make noise. Now I can toss this nice clean brake rotor on here. Put on my caliper support bracket with the pads. I'm going to hold on to these pads with my hands so they don't fall off, and these caliper support bracket bolts, they'll do you for about 80 foot-pounds. And I got these new wires here. I can put these on. I got to hold on to the pads when I put them on. And I can toss this caliper on. I got to make sure I don't twist up the brake line when I do it. And these little bolts get tightened to about 23 foot-pounds. I just want to make sure this slides really nice. If it doesn't, you might have a bent pin or something. And I can see them pads in there are moving really nice too. So that's all super good stuff. Now I'm going to deal with this flexible brake hose. I got a 10mm line wrench. First thing I'm going to want to do is crack this just a little bit. And I want to make sure that the line doesn't turn with the nut. If it does, sometimes you can hit it with a little MAP gas and then it loosens up, or you're going to have to replace the brake line. There's a little chunk right here. I don't know, it's about a 1.5 feet long. Seems to be coming out okay. Don't really have any problems there. There's a 12mm right here on this banjo bolt. Gonna loosen that up. Then I got a clip right here. I can put a needle nose vice grip on and just take that out. And it's dripping right now. I checked my bottle up there. I made sure I got enough in the bottle so it can leak a little bit without running the reservoir out. I'm just going to take this banjo bolt all the way off. Now I can take this nut off the rest of the way. Kind of rust it in a little bit. There's a little pin in here, holds it in the caliper. I still got a copper washer stuck on the caliper here I need to take off. Make sure the sealing surface is nice and clean. I don't want to get any dirt or anything stuck in there. In my banjo bolt, I got a copper washer that goes on one side. And then this goes in here like this, and a copper washer on the other side. I'm just going to start this. Like so. And I'm going to start this end. I'm going to leave that line just a little bit loose because it only goes in one way. Got to make sure that them flats go up there. And then I can put this clip back in. Like so. This banjo bolt should get tightened to about 15 to 18 foot-pounds. I like to do it by feel. I'm just going to tighten it down a little bit. You can feel where it's all the way zero and crushed. And then I just go a little more and it squishes that washer really nice. And then this top bolt, I can tighten this down now. I just have it zeroed. And then I can tighten it down about that much more. So I'd say I got it a little over a quarter of a turn. And you gotta kind of do these by feel too, because it's a double flare and it just squishes down and either it leaks or it won't. So I just gotta check all of this stuff. After I get everything put together, I just put my foot on the brake really hard and make sure none of this leaks. And do the same to the other side. I guess I don't really need to show you how to put that new caliper on either, because I pretty much did everything. I took this remanufactured caliper apart so I could put everything together right, and this didn't feel right at all. Jesus. There's a little difference there. The f***tards put the wrong pins in here. I guess I'll use the originals. If I use the pins they gave me, this guy will go over bumps. It'll be rattling like crazy. I have both sides of the front brakes are done, and I'm just gravity bleeding it now. It's coming out really fast, and it's nice and clear fluid. So I'm pretty much done with this. I can just close this off, and I want to tighten these bleeder screws to about 10 foot-pounds, and they should be good. Now I just got to do the rears. 14 millimeter on these. I got a 17 millimeter on these caliper support brackets. Emergency brakes actually look okay. That's pretty amazing. I didn't have to hammer this rotor off. It's got this little rubber thing here I gotta put on the other rotor. That's so you can get at the emergency brake adjustment down here. And then just do the same prep work as you did to the front, really. This bottom pin is really stuck. I can't get it to move at all. I don't want to try to torque it too much either, because I can just snap it off that way. I'm going to try to salvage what I can. So I got some MAP gas here. I'm just going to get this hot right in this area and try to stay away from this rubber boot, because I'm going to try to use all of this stuff. Kind of pull it back a little bit. Yeah, it's really, really nasty in there. That's got another rubber boot on it. I kind of saved it. I can probably reuse it. I'm just going to clean this stuff up just like I did with the front. In case you're wondering how critical this rubber boot is too, it's really just an anti-rattle thing. Just keeps it so the caliper doesn't rattle when it sits there and moves around. I got the pins all nice and cleaned up. And this pad won't go in all the way. It's really super tight. And I made sure there's no rust back here behind these new abutment clips. Sometimes they just don't want to fit, so you got to give them a little trim job. You can file them or sand them until they fit really nice. See, that's all it took, and they slide really good. Got the new Same thing here, about 80 foot-pounds will do you just fine. Pads move really nice. Got this caliper all cleaned and lubed up really nice. Same here, 23 foot-pounds on these. Caliper moves really nice. Do the same to the other side. All 4 brakes are done. I still have a little bit left in this bottle. Just going to be real quick and get that out of there. I can put this filter thing back in it. Put the cap on it. You can just use regular water to clean this off if you made a little mess. Brake fluid is hygroscopic, so it washes off with water. And since I gravity bled it and put a new caliper on it, I'm going to want to load the calipers by pumping the pedal until I get a nice solid high pedal. I can wait about 10 seconds and then hit it again. And the pedal should be right up there, up to the top. If it's not, you might have some air in there. It feels pretty good. I might have just a little bit of air in that one new caliper I put in. Now I pumped it all the way up. I'm going to hold it down really hard. And I'm going to hold it here for about a minute. It feels pretty solid. I don't feel it bleeding down or anything. I'm just holding it to make sure that the bleeder screws and them lines that I put in aren't leaking at all. And after a minute I can just let up and see if I got any brake fluid leaking. Everything looks really good. It feels really nice. I don't see any leaks anywhere. But whenever you put a new caliper in and you gravity bleed it, after you load the caliper and these pistons get pushed out, there's usually a little bit of air that's around the pistons that kind of gets stuck, and then it just works its way up to the top of the caliper. So I can just crack this open and there's probably going to be a little bit of air come out of it. Yeah. Just a little bit, not much. Close this line back up. I should have a really nice new perfect brake job now. I just got to put the tires on. Nissan says to torque the lug nuts to 85 foot-pounds, and then I'll just go down the road, do about 30 miles an hour and just lightly hit the brakes a couple of times and come to a stop, and then go down the freeway and hit the brakes a couple more times just to bed the pads in and make sure everything's all good and call it a job. Okay, bye.